everyone, this is Katie Colleen here. Welcome back, Colleen Clan, or if you are new, then come join the family for day one of Wasabicon in Portland, Oregon. We're doing something different today, guys. So if you're new, hello, I'm Colleen, and I have a chronic illness. I have a dynamic disability, if you want to use a fancier term. And so what that means is that some days I feel great, some days I feel awful. And I always knew that the day was coming that I would have a pain flare, a bad pain day, or just feel exceptionally unwell, and it would land on a con weekend. I knew that day was coming, I knew it was in my future, and it was Wasabicon, apparently. I just was not feeling super well at this con, so we're going to try a bit of a different format for this vlog. So instead, I'm gonna be doing a bit of a storytime video, kind of telling you how the con went, and I do have just a little bit of B-roll and other recorded pieces that I'm gonna kind of sandwich in. So let's get started. We arrived at Wasabicon at noon. Or I guess more specifically, we arrived at the Portland Hilton downtown at noon. And the registration line was crazy, y'all. I usually like to go to cons at noon because usually it's still pretty quiet around that time, but there's enough going on that it's not boring either. So I felt like noon was a good time to show up. It was not a good time to show up. I had heard from some people who had waited in line that it was over an hour wait to get your badge. Furthermore, this registration line actually went up a flight of stairs. So as a wheelchair user, there was no way I was going to be able to follow this line up a flight of stairs to go get my badge. And so we just decided that we were just gonna wait it out in the hotel room for a while. Now, I did find out later that if you were not able to go up a flight of stairs in this crazy long line, that you could have gone around and kind of skipped the line as sort of an ADA line. I really wish they'd put even just a handwritten sticky note or something on the wall that said like, hey, if you can't get up these stairs, go around and get your badge. But no, there wasn't. So there was unfortunately no way to know that there was an ADA accessible line unless you talked to staff. And you couldn't talk to staff because they were managing the hour-long wait of getting badges. I am in Techno finally. It's now 2:30. It's been 2.5 hours and we have not even started registration yet. We're gonna take some nice pictures in our hotel room. Hopefully the line will be a bit shorter by then. And registration went pretty smoothly now that the line had dwindled down. Honestly, the people running registration were very nice. I find that a lot of con staff that has to deal with this quantity of registration and this heat and crowd usually gets very short-tempered, but that was not the case. The staff for the registration was all very, very kind. They were all very nice. Now, registration where you get your badge is on the lobby area or the first floor of the hotel. The actual con is happening in the basement. So if you were able-bodied, you would go to registration and then you'd come around the corner and you take these nice little escalators down to the basement level where the con is happening. Now, since I am using a wheelchair, that means I had to take the elevator. Now, there were some unfortunate things about these elevators. First of all, one of the elevators was completely inoperable the entire weekend. That elevator was just not working at all. So they were already down an elevator. Furthermore, there was just a lot of people at this hotel. There was all of Wasabicon and there was also a dermatology conference happening. It was a packed house in this hotel and everyone was taking the elevator. That meant that it was about a 30-minute wait for me to get an elevator to get down to the basement floor. Unfortunate. And I got into the con space. Now, the staff was kind enough to let me take some video of this space when it was empty on Sunday morning, so I'm gonna show you that just to give you a feel for what this was like. So there's this big, like, kind of lobby area room, and I would consider this to be the space where cosplayers just kind of hang out, people take pictures, basically a loitering space. Now, the big double doors in the center was the exhibitors hall. And then the other set of big doors was main events where the cosplay contest and lip sync were held. If you went down the hallway, you had some other panel rooms and other smaller rooms. And that was the convention. I guess they also had 18+ events on the 23rd floor of the hotel, which I think also kind of made the elevator traffic worse from people going to the basement to the 23rd floor up and down. So I didn't go to the 23rd floor at all. I don't know what that was like, but it feels worth mentioning that they did have other events I didn't even look at. So I was able to get some B-roll of me going around this con space when it was full on Sunday. Sunday is quite a bit less people than Saturday, but I feel like you can still get an idea for what the space looked like when the con was going. Now, looking at this footage, it was quite crowded. It was quite crowded. And it was actually crowded to the point that I just couldn't really get my wheelchair through. There was no way I could really get around this convention area because it was so densely filled with people. Furthermore, there is no natural lighting in this basement area, and it was very hot. It was over 100 degrees in Portland that weekend, and so this basement area got very sweaty, very hot, and very crowded. Now, I have definitely been to crowded cons before. I am no stranger to crowded cons. I definitely had been to some before the pandemic, but something about this particular atmosphere took me from feeling mildly unwell to very much unwell. So within about a few minutes of kind of taking in this environment on Saturday, I began to feel very sick, and I spent the next 3 hours with the cosplay contest and stuff feeling like I was going to vomit on anyone who talked to me. And it was at that point that I decided I was going to drop the cosplay showcases from this vlog and try something else because I felt so unwell in this space. You could also see that it would be unsafe for me to pull cosplayers aside and try and do cosplay showcases with how crowded it was. So we kind of waited it out down there for a little while, and we finally arrived at 4 o'clock on Saturday, which was for the costume contest. Now, for the costume contest at Wasabi, there is no online sign-ups. You cannot sign up in advance. You sign up at registration when you get your badge, which was kind of another positive of waiting out the line in our hotel, is we got to have a lot of space and time for me to fill out the form for the cosplay contest. So they give you this form where you put your name, character name, series your characters from, all very basic stuff. They also have you explain just a little paragraph about how you made your build. Furthermore, they ask that you submit a reference picture of what your character should look like so that the judges had something to go off of. So this is the reference picture I submitted for Tekna. Now, this contest was a bit disorganized, but honestly, not the worst I've seen. So Wasabicon's contest does not have any separate pre-judging. A lot of cons will have a pre-judging section where contestants meet with the judges before the contest even happens and explains how they made their outfit. So I ended up going first, and this was to kind of make it a bit easier for me to get up and off the ramp. But again, the staff were very, very kind and accommodating. I think I could have asked to go at literally any point in the contest and they would have just let me do that. But as I mentioned, I was ready to vomit on anyone who looked at me, so I wanted to go first and get it done with. Speaking of ramps, Wasabicon did have a ramp to get onto their stage, which I'm very, very excited about. I'm really happy that I was able to participate in both the cosplay contest and the lip sync, and that they put forth the effort to get a ramp in this space so that I could be included. So awesome job, Wasabicon. I'm glad you actually had a ramp and I could participate. So I feel like this is pretty standard. You go on stage, you do a little pose for the crowd, and then you talk to the judges.
Awesome. We'll give our judges a moment to take a look. Any questions, judges?
Custom fitted to me, tailored, and then I also
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Colleen. We'd love to see it.
Now, the thing about this contest that was a bit frustrating is how not everyone got the same amount of time with the judges. I feel like I got quite a bit of time with the judges, but that's probably just because I've done a lot of contests. I have a stage presence, and I was not going to roll off that stage until I had a chance to explain how I made my outfit. But there were some people in the contest who didn't get to say a word to the judges, and there were some people who didn't have any questions asked. Some people had a mic handed to them and got to explain everything in detail, others didn't. I couldn't really find any rhyme or reason as to why some people got time with the judges and others didn't. What the judges figure out about your costume was kind of in the hands of the contestant. You kind of had to just be like, by the way, I'm not leaving this stage until I tell the judges how I made this. Furthermore, for this contest, they asked that you had made 50% of your costume. Now, I've made everything on Tecna except the shoes, so I was good there. But with a lot of costumes, it was really hard to tell who made what. It was very difficult, and I've been in a lot of cosplay contests. Obviously, I do a lot of craftsmanship. I feel like I'm pretty good at spotting handmade versus bought in certain situations. It's very difficult at this con. There are 46 contestants, I believe. Maybe 47, quite a few contestants, and with how fast people were going on and off stage, I couldn't even tell who made what. But I stick to what I say. I don't think this was the worst. Honestly, I feel like this was kind of the average of cons that don't have prejudging. Boise Wizard World 2018. Didn't say a word to the judges, didn't even look at them. WenCon 2019. Didn't say a word to the judges. I think I just kind of made a joke to the MC and left. Lilac City Comic Con, every year I've competed, you do have time with the judges. I think it's about 20 seconds, but they don't have separate prejudging either. So as far as these other cons that don't have prejudging, I felt like this kind of fell into an average of like, it's kind of hit or miss if you really got to explain to the judges how well you made your costume, but it kind of is what it is. Now, as I said, this whole time was feeling rather ill. So I ended up sitting away from the rest of the contestants and just kind of dying in a corner for a little while. I also didn't stay for any of the pictures afterwards. I had a few people message me and they were really concerned I was being discriminated against or something. I want to assure you guys that was not the case. Everyone there was very nice, very accommodating. All the staff were quite lovely. I was not being discriminated against. I just thought I was going to vomit on anyone who got near me, so I decided to distance myself from everyone else. I also booked it out of there before we did any of the cosplay contest pictures, so you won't see me in any of the contest pictures, and I promise that's not discrimination. That was me just getting out of there because I didn't feel good. Hello everyone, so it is now Sunday, day 2 of Wasabicon. That's right, I did not film anything yesterday. I'm feeling a lot better today. I think it was just really overwhelming between checking into the hotel, parking, getting into costume. It was just very overwhelming yesterday. So today's a better day and I'm already signed up for the lip sync. So when Sunday came, I signed up for the lip sync battle. Now this was handled the same way as the cosplay contest. You have to go to the registration desk when it opens to sign up. Now registration opens at 9 o'clock. They have 15 slots. I was there at 9 o'clock sharp. I was number 7. So that means by the time I showed up at the earliest time to register, there were already 6 people in front of me. So these slots went very, very quick. And there were some very, very dedicated lip syncers at this con. So I signed up at 9 o'clock and then I just went back to my hotel room into the lip sync. So I'm in Queen Bee now. It's about noon on Sunday. I'm still feeling pretty good compared to how I felt yesterday, so I'm going to try and give the con a try for a few hours. The lip sync is at 2:30. I need to be in the room at 2, so I'm hoping I can kind of have an hour or two to wander around the con, stretch out a bit, and then do the lip sync. And here is my Queen Bee. I'm so glad I got to take her to this con. I made this cosplay from scratch in 2020. I completely remade it from scratch in 2021, and this is the first time it's been to a con. So I'm happy to take Queen Bee out there and see how she's received, do the lip sync contest. So I did my lip sync as Queen Bee. My wig was falling off. Unfortunate. Something I didn't realize is as a wheelchair user, I spend a lot of time looking up to talk to people, and apparently that made my wig like slide off my head throughout the time getting ready for the contest. So by the time I got to the contest, my wig was just only held on by prayers. Anyways, I did my lip sync as Queen Bee from Miraculous Ladybug, and I did it to the song Homecoming Queen by Kelsey Ballerini. I have that video posted on my YouTube if you'd like to see the whole lip sync. Honestly, no complaints about the lip sync, really. I feel like there were some really talented people in the lip sync. Tough competition, guys. I think the lip sync went well, and after the lip sync, I went back to my hotel room. And that was about it. So not a whole lot of time spent at the con. So they do have this same venue booked for next year, and I don't plan on attending next year at this time. I'm really glad they did have a ramp for the stage and I could do stage events, but also it was so crowded I could hardly get my wheelchair through, and that did not feel great. So I'll probably just try out some other conventions next year, but there were definitely people who did enjoy this con. I saw a lot of people saying this was their favorite con. They loved it. They're really happy. So I don't know. This is just my perspective and how things went for me. Y'all are free to make your own decisions. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!